Tell me what it's like to live with long COVID. What's it like today?
Yeah, so it's like today. I mean, even as I'm talking to you, I got COVID when we were passing the CARES Act more than 2 years ago. And it was early, and I got hit with non-standard symptoms, but one of them was this, like a light switch went off, and all my nerves started to tingle. It's like I've got, my skin dipped in an Alka-Seltzer that's fizzing, and it never has gone away. So my other symptoms went away quick. This fizzing sensation, others are experiencing it. It's not painful. It doesn't stop me from working or exercising or sleeping, but it's just weird, and it's 24/7, and it's been going for 2 years. And at this point, I guess I kind of have to assume it's probably never going away.
What kind of, and I'm sure you're probably more aware of how many people have similar stories as yours. How many of you come across, and what kind of medical research has gone into this?
So Chuck, tons of people. As soon as I shared my story, my office has become a bit of a magnet for people who want to share theirs. And I decided to share my story after about 6 or 8 months. I'd been to a neurologist. I kind of felt like I understood what was going on. But I was running into others with much more serious symptoms who were not being believed. And when they were not being believed, I thought, well, if I am on the committee and I say, hey, look, I believe you because it's real, then that'll give them some comfort. But then I can also, on the committee, try to drive towards solutions. So here's what's going on. In the American Rescue Plan, we put more than $1 billion into research for causes and cures. And interestingly, Chuck, this one, we may know cures before we know causes. So, for example, my nerve tingling thing, there are other cures for nerve tingling not related to COVID. Well, maybe those cures could work for people who have it connected to COVID. People with long COVID often have racing heart, irregular heart rates. Well, there's other cures for that. Would that work for somebody who got that because of COVID? So we're doing research, but the Long COVID Act that I put in recently is sort of 4 big pillars: gather patient data, more research into causes and cures, spread the information to providers, employers, and families, but then also let's provide support for those, for example, who might be so debilitated that they actually are disabled under Social Security, or they need an accommodation to be able to work. And so I'm very focused on this because I'm living with it and dealing with it, but there are many who are really suffering under it, and we owe them answers and we owe them treatments.
Look, you talked about getting medical professionals to believe their patient. You're almost describing what many times people who get Lyme disease go through, right? Their doctors are like, we can't find it, we can't find it.
Absolutely.
How do you make sure insurance companies don't deny benefits based on these symptoms that, again, are not as well known yet?
Well, Chuck, it's a really good question, and you're right. The research that we're going to do is going to answer some questions not just about long COVID, but about other conditions that may have followed viral infections, because Lyme disease and others often have a tail of neurological and other consequences. We want to research that too. But you're right, the coverage issues are fascinating. What if you got COVID at the start of COVID, before there was a lot of testing, and so you never really got a test, but you did have COVID? Then you've been vaccinated, so now you have antibodies in your system, but somebody could say, well, those antibodies, they're from your vaccination. They don't prove you had COVID. So making a claim for insurance, establishing a disability, asking an employer for an accommodation to help you work consistent with what you can do, these are all thorny questions, and that's what the 4th pillar of my bill would do: patient support to help folks who've been through this tough 2 years. We just passed 1 million deaths. I mean, my God, who would have ever believed that 2 years ago? But it's millions more that are going to be not dying of COVID, but having to live the rest of their lives with long COVID. And I think this bill, which does, I think, have some significant bipartisan support, particularly on the funding side, can help us provide some of that support.